Part 113. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1121. Although Xianyuan space seems to be in danger of collapsing at any time, as long as dozens of guardian warriors relax the energy suppression in their bodies, everyone will be wiped out. And since there is no weapon spirit in Xianyuan space, even if you want to communicate with the warriors inside and ask them to suppress their energy fluctuations with all their strength, you can only resign yourself to fate. But even so, Wang Feng still has no intention of releasing them. Of course, if he really wants to stabilize Xianyuan space, Wang Feng has another way. Those expeditionary force soldiers are now in Xianyuan space. As long as Wang Feng with just a thought of the wind, the life energy of a small number of them can be extracted. In this way, Xianyuan space will naturally stabilize, and Wang Feng will not need to be as worried as he is now. But of course, Wang Feng cannot do such a thing. Wang Feng's position is now above the cosmic ghost. Wang Feng just flew a small fighter plane out of that area during the energy collision, so no cosmic ghost found him. And after coming out, while the fluctuations of energy collision had not disappeared, Wang Feng immediately sent a signal to Duanlei and the others to represent their own safety. Because the energy fluctuations in this area are now strong, they will not be discovered by the universe. But you can't make voice calls. Almost at the same time that Wang Feng sent the signal, he also received the signal from Duanlei, which also meant that the defensive fortress was temporarily safe. Therefore, Wang Feng does not dare to expose himself rashly now, because they have now turned on invisibility, so even Wang Feng and Duanlei do not know the location of the other party, so Wang Feng naturally does not know the current situation of Duanlei and the others. When Wang Feng saw that the Space Ghost fleet had also suffered heavy losses and was almost wiped out, Wang Feng took a breath of air. Fortunately, he did not hesitate at the beginning and directly put away the Yanhuang and left there. If he had been there at that time, if he wanted to rely on Yanhuang's shield to resist this energy impact, Yanhuang would probably no longer exist by now. The horror of this energy collision far exceeded Wang Feng's imagination. Seeing the dozen or so battleships of the Space Ghost, Wang Feng even had the urge to take out the Yanhuang and annihilate them all. There were only 13 space battleships. For Wang Feng, if he didn't care about the energy consumption, just kill them. It is absolutely possible, especially now that they seem to think that the human race has been destroyed by them, and they are all looking for something below, without being wary of themselves at all. If they were all killed, it is estimated that Cosmic Ghost would not know the details of what happened here. Although Wang Feng thought that Cosmic Ghost's battleship might have sent images of the battle back to their headquarters, but the previous one, the collision of energy, if you just watch the video, the feeling is definitely not as strong as it was in person. Looking at the space battleships that had all their energy shields cancelled and were just floating quietly in the air, Wang Feng just planned to take out the Yanhuang and start attacking. Suddenly, he found that there seemed to be some black spots in the distant sky, so then he stopped his actions. Although those black spots were still far away from him, and even Wang Feng wouldn't have been able to spot them if he didn't have the sky eye. But without even thinking about it, Wang Feng knew that those black spots must be the fleet of cosmic ghosts. Looking at the distance, it was estimated that they would be able to get here in about 10 minutes. After thinking about it, Wang Feng decided to wait until they arrived. Although 10 minutes was almost enough for Wang Feng to kill the space battleships below, Wang Feng felt that, killing a dozen space battleships does not seem to be able to influence the situation of the battle. It is better to wait for those space battleships to arrive, and perhaps find opportunities to expand the results. No matter what happened, he could at least pull all these space battleships away to buy Duanlei time. Although Duanlei sent a safety signal, Wang Feng was completely uneasy. Under such a huge energy impact, the human race's defense, the fortress, should have also been damaged, but now Wang Feng doesn't know the damage to the defensive fortress. So Wang Feng is waiting now. When he saw the two space fleets arriving, Wang Feng's heart couldn't help but beat. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the ability to create an energy impact like just now. Otherwise, if he does it again now, he can directly destroy these two space fleets. Just when Wang Feng was entangled in his heart, he suddenly discovered that there were two small fighters flying out from the largest space battleship among the two new space fleets, heading towards the first arriving space battleship. Fly away. Watching the two small fighters flying into the space battleship that had just come out of the abyss, Wang Feng frowned. He was guessing what kind of space ghosts were among the two small fighters. They were going what was going on in the flagship of the first space fleet. However, before Wang Feng could figure it out, he noticed a wave of fluctuations coming from the Xianyuan space. This was a sign that the space was about to collapse. Wang Feng was shocked, and without any time to think, he immediately teleported out and placed the Yanhuang number. Outside, the moment the Yanhuang appeared, Wang Feng put away his small fighter plane and entered the Yanhuang. "Everyone, get ready. We are about to start fighting." Wang Feng shouted loudly, and piloted the Yanhuang to dive towards the flagship of the Cosmic Ghost. In fact, there is basically no difference whether Wang Feng shouts or not, because he is fully capable of driving the Yanhuang on his own, especially since the Yanhuang has undergone several modifications, and the Yanhuang was originally owned by Wang Feng. It is an exclusive battleship, so Wang Feng is extremely familiar with the Yanhuang. Just as Wang Feng dived downward, all the naval guns on the Yanhuang, regardless of size, had begun to charge, preparing to give the flagship below a fatal blow. At this time, the captains of the three cosmic ghosts were still watching the images of the previous energy collision attentively. Although Buster had experienced the previous situation personally, it was possible that this was something he had created in his life. The most glorious record, so he didn't mind watching it again, and even watched it more seriously and excitedly than Karul and Dapra. When the Yanhuang first appeared, the two cosmic ghost fleets below did not notice it immediately. This was also because they had been misled by Bust's cosmic fleet, because before they had no precautions at all. Even the cosmic ghost fleets, the battleship's energy shield wasn't even propped up, it was just suspended in the air. Moreover, the cosmic ghosts on the ground did not have the slightest awareness of being on the battlefield. They just parked the small fighter planes aside and then searched for the wreckage belonging to the human race on the ground. This sight naturally made the two subsequent space battleships relax their vigilance and regard this place as a safe zone. It wasn't until the Yanhuang, driven by Wang Feng, had arrived above Buster's flagship, and the naval guns had begun to flash, and was about to launch an attack, that the cosmic ghost discovered the Yanhuang. Enemy attack. The appearance of Wang Feng immediately caused a panic among the cosmic ghosts. Although Wang Feng was only piloting the Yanhuang space battleship, even though it was a flagship level, compared with the huge fleet of cosmic ghosts, it seemed that it's not on the same level at all. But the problem is that the current cosmic ghosts, except for the clansmen on the 13 remaining space battleships of Bryce's space fleet, the other cosmic ghosts have no idea what has happened here. All they knew was that the extremely terrifying abyss had just been created, and that the human race had appeared here and almost killed all of Bryce's space fleet. As for how this terrifying abyss was formed, what kind of weapons the human race used, and almost destroyed Bryce's space fleet, these things are not what they know. Now I saw that the human race clearly only had one space battleship, but they still dared to dive towards them, and the target was actually the flagship of the Bust fleet. I couldn't help but be shocked. Because there are 3 space fleet commanders on the flagship now, so nothing can happen. The warships of the Space Ghost fleet quickly launched their weapons in an attempt to intercept Wang Feng, and at the same time issued a warning to Buster's flagship, but now Buster, Karul, and Dapura were all watching the previous paragraph with concentration. Image. Although they were not at the scene and could not feel the huge momentum produced by the energy collision, after seeing that after the light dissipated, Busta's space fleet turned into a wreckage. Karul and Dopura still remained. It was extremely shocking. I didn't expect that energy collision would produce such a huge energy impact. I think the crazy group of weapons researchers will be very interested in this. Dopura looked at the image and said, because he had been in the first fleet before, so he had more authority. He often went to the Weapons Research Institute, so he was very familiar with those guys, and he also saw the value of this image at a glance. If the Weapons Research Institutes are allowed to integrate this energy hedging method into their beam cannons, the power of their naval guns will definitely increase to a terrifying level. By then, I am afraid that ordinary energy shields will not be able to. It won't do anything for them. Hearing Dopura's words, Buster frowned. This was not what he wanted to hear. He had wiped out all the human race. No matter what, these guys should show shock and respect, right? But before he could speak, a hurried voice suddenly came from the communicator. Lord Bust. Activate the shield immediately. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1122. The one who warned Buster and the others was a space ghost on Dapper's flagship. He was Dapper's adjutant. Seeing that all the beam cannons on the human space battleship had been fully charged, the adjutant had no time to say anything else. He just shouted for them to turn on the shield. Turn on the shield. Bryce was stunned. What do you mean? However, Dapper and Karul did not do the same as him. After hearing the adjutant's voice, the first reaction of the two was to reach out together and press a button on the console to directly turn on the shield. Sir. A human spaceship is rushing towards you and is about to open fire. At this time, the adjutant's subsequent words came out. He is very fast, we can't intercept him, please disengage immediately to avoid collision. The adjutant watched Wang Feng driving the Yanhuang straight towards Bryce's flagship, fearing that he would crash into it directly, so he reminded him that the adjutant could ignore other people, but Dapper was there now. According to the rules of the Space Ghost, if the fleet commander died, then the Space Ghosts on the entire flagship would be responsible. Retreat. Hearing this, Dapper and Karul looked at each other, and then ran to a ring behind the console together. There was the emergency exit of the spaceship. Although it was not their flagship, the Space Ghosts' warships were all made of the same mold, so the two Space Ghosts were also very familiar with this battleship. Why are you running? Isn't it just a human battleship? What's the big deal? Bryce hesitated for a moment, and finally did not run away with them. After all, this was his flagship. Besides, there was only one human battleship. Although the shouting over there seemed to be more urgent, what could a battleship do? Although his space fleet was completely wiped out, there were still 12 frigates. But before he finished speaking, Karul and Dapper had disappeared. Bryce, who was a little disappointed, just wanted to turn around and take a closer look at the situation, but suddenly felt that his battleship began to vibrate violently. Then, he only heard a loud boom, and then fell into darkness. Because Wang Feng had already started to launch a concentrated fire attack on Bryce's flagship at this time. Although Bryce's frigates tried desperately to rush over to protect their flagship, because they were stationary before, the huge space battleship needed more time to speed up on a planet with gravity, so they were simply too late. As for the two newly arrived space fleets, since their directions were just opposite and Wang Feng passed through the middle of the two fleets, they did not dare to attack with large firepower at all, because it would be easy to hit their own warships on the opposite side with beam cannons. Especially when they saw that their fleet commander had been ejected from Bryce's flagship and rapidly climbed to high altitude, they could no longer care about Bryce's flagship and quickly sent out small fighters to pick up their commander. Although Bryce's flagship was the largest and most powerful space battleship in his fleet, it still could not withstand Wang Feng's full ship gunfire, especially since the area it was attacked by was quite small, so its energy shield, under the attack of the Yanhuang, only lasted for more than 3 seconds before it was directly broken. Without the protection of the energy shield, the steel armor of the Bryce flagship was basically no different from an eggshell under the artillery fire of the Yanhuang. It was torn apart in an instant and exploded into a large fireball. Wang Feng, who succeeded in the sneak attack, did not delay at all. He lowered his direction directly, then flew close to the ground and flew towards the distance, preparing to escape. At this time, Karul and Dapra had been taken to the small fighter plane by their own people. They did not even have time to return to their flagship. In the small fighter plane, they began to issue orders to let their fleets chase the human space battleship. Since the commanders of the two fleets all issued the pursuit order at the same time, they all started to chase the Yanhuang that had already escaped to the distance. On the contrary, the 12 frigates of Bryce did not know what they should do because their fleet commander had been destroyed together with the flagship. They also wanted to chase, but now the small fighter planes on their battleships were all on the ground. Those space ghosts who were looking for the remains of the human race were looking up at the sky with a stupid look on their faces, and had not yet reacted to the scene of their flagship being destroyed. You stay there and continue searching to see if there are any humans there. Send 2 more warships back to the headquarters to report the situation your fleet encountered before. I will tell the headquarters that Bryce's death has nothing to do with you. After returning to his flagship, the first thing Dapper did was to connect to the command channel of the 12 frigates, because he was also the commander of the fleet, so he naturally had this authority. Karul originally planned to give this order to those frigates, but now that he heard Dapper had said it, he did not speak. Damn it! Bryce, that guy, is simply a pig. No, he is not as smart as a pig, he is even stupider than a pig's hoof. After giving the order, Dopula cursed incomprehensibly. Hearing his curse, Karul just shook his head slightly, but still remained silent. He was now in the command channel, that is to say, Bryce's those subordinates could also hear that although Bryce had been killed in battle, this was still not a very appropriate approach. However, Karul did not refute, because he also felt that Bryce was indeed stupid. After hearing the warning from Dopura's adjutant, his and Dopura's first reaction was to open the shield, but Bryce actually still had time to be dazed. Forget it, but when they made an emergency escape later, Bryce didn't react yet. This can only be said that he was looking for death. I really don't know how such a person became the commander of the fleet. No wonder the fleet has always been at the bottom. With such a commander, it is a miracle that his fleet was not completely wiped out. Oh. No, now Bryce's fleet can basically be said to have been completely wiped out. Okay. Dopura. That idiot Bryce is dead, so there's no need to worry about him anymore. Let's think about how to catch up with the human space battleship in front of us. Karul directly switched the channel and connected the communication with Dapra alone. This human space battleship is faster than ours, and our battleship was stationary before. According to the current situation, it is impossible to catch up with him. I immediately contacted the headquarters to report our position and the course of the human warship, and asked the headquarters to arrange other fleets to intercept it. As long as we follow this human warship, as long as it does not escape our tracking, it can't run. While answering, Dopura used another communicator to connect to the headquarters of the Space Ghost. Afterwards, Dopura directly reported a set of numbers and told those at the headquarters that these were the coordinates of the human space battleship, and the current speed and direction of the advance allowed the headquarters to immediately contact the space fleet that was rushing to the previous coordinates and order them to change their course and contain this human warship. At this time, Karul had also adjusted the formation of his battleships and expanded the formation as much as possible, so that they could block the rear of the Yanhuang as much as possible and prevent him from having the chance to turn back. As for the place they left just now, Karul actually thought about leaving part of the battleship and searching it carefully, but finally gave up. The human space battleship just now was obviously ambushed in the air. Although I don't know why they didn't find it when they arrived. When they left, Karul scanned it with radar and found nothing. Moreover, while Doppura sighed that it was high in the sky, he also looked around specifically, but found nothing. And if the human race really has space battleships hidden in the sky like this space battleship, it would be the best choice to launch a sneak attack just now. In that case, more of our own battleships will definitely be destroyed, and even both Doppura and Dapper may fall in the melee. As for the ground, let alone that. Bryce's subordinates have climbed out of small fighter planes to search. If they can still be evaded by the human space battleships, then those space ghosts are really worse than pig hooves. Even more stupid. But Karul obviously didn't guess correctly, because the human race's defensive fortress is really hidden on the ground, or hidden underground. Of course, this does not really mean that the cosmic ghosts searching for the remains of the human race are very dangerous. Stupid, but Doomsday and the others were quite lucky when they were defending the fortress through light teleportation. Naturally, they teleported into the big pit that the cosmic ghost bombarded with energy beams in order to kill Wang Feng. However, the human fortress is not invisible now, because when they teleported, they felt something was wrong, so Doomsday did not immediately close the shield and activate the cloaking device as planned. Just after they teleported over, a mountain-like shadow came toward them overwhelmingly. However, when Doomsday saw the situation clearly, his mind changed, and then he immediately closed the shield and continued to fire on the console. Clicked a few times. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1123. In fact, what Doomsday did was very simple. He just closed the shield, closed the muzzles of all the beam cannons, and also closed the suspension system of the defensive fortress. In this way, the defensive fortress became a sealed hemisphere and dropped directly to the bottom of the pit. Because Doomsday saw that the black shadow shrouding the defensive fortress was actually the upper half of the deep pit transmitted from the defensive fortress. It collapsed due to the impact of energy collision. Doomsday immediately made a decision and refused to do anything. Any evasion will allow the defensive fortress to be buried. Due to Doomsday's action, the defensive fortress was buried in the pit, and even the stealth system did not need to be turned on. Maybe it would be a little more troublesome to get out, but at least it would be safer. Of course, Doomsday also sent a message to Wang Feng's Yanhuang just now to express his safety. Although the situation was critical, Doomsday still felt that Wang Feng should be able to escape this disaster. Sure enough, when Doomsday's message was sent out, he also received the message from Wang Feng. Now Doomsday felt completely at ease, so he simply shut down most of the functions of the defensive fortress, leaving only the life support system and lighting. The system began to wait quietly. Because they are afraid that turning on the radar will be sensed by the cosmic ghost above, Doomsday and the others know nothing about what is going on above now, but Doomsday knows that a large number of cosmic ghost battleships will definitely come here in a while. Doomsday originally planned to ask Lin Li to send his army of rats out to investigate, but he hesitated and gave up because now they know that in the Endless Tower, there is only one kind of creature of the Guardian race on each floor. There will be no other creatures at all, unless they are brought in by this Guardian race. However, the Space Ghost does not seem to have the habit of keeping pets, and even if they store some living creatures as food reserves, they should not let their food run around, not to mention that animals like rats do not know whether they are in the universe. In the ghost food chain. If you want to go out for reconnaissance, in fact, among the human race's defensive fortresses, there are people who can go out and conduct careful reconnaissance, and they will never be discovered by the cosmic ghosts. That is the members of the Phantom Clan. They are soul-body creatures. If they are farther away, and cover up your own energy fluctuations, even if it is a life detector, it is not easy to detect them. Thinking of this, Duan Lei turned back and shouted to the phantom tribe. Xiao, you go find a few of your tribesmen, choose the smarter ones, let them suppress their energy fluctuations, go up to see the situation, remember, tell them, if there is a battle, do not approach the battlefield, just watch and then come back and tell me what happened. Okay. Don't worry, even if I don't tell them, they will never run to a peaceful battlefield. Excessive energy impact may directly kill us. The energy impact just now, if it happened on our level, our entire family would probably die. Xiao from the Phantom tribe nodded and said, because he has been with Wang Feng and Duan Lei for a long time, this kid now dares to joke with them, especially now that he has received the body given to him by Li Yingning. It feels like there is no difference between himself and humans, and he has gradually regarded himself as a human being. When the phantoms sent by Xiao arrived on the ground, they happened to see Wang Feng driving the Yanhuang and destroying Bryce's flagship. Even though the huge fireball was still far away from these phantoms, but it still scared them, and they immediately got into the ground. Now they are not in a defensive fortress. If they encounter a strong energy impact, their bodies will collapse. Fortunately, their bodies are originally illusory, so entering the ground is effortless. After discovering the explosion just now, after the fireball did not reach their side, these Phantom Clan members came outside to watch again. After they saw clearly the situation outside, 5 people stayed behind, while the other 3 got into the ground again to report the situation above to Xiao. Brother Lei. After listening to the report of the 3 Phantom Clan members, Xiao directly conveyed it to Duan Lei. Now, like the Martian trio and others, he is called Brother Duan Lei. As for Lu Feng and others, Duan Lei he didn't dare to try the title Xiao Lei easily. Brother Feng's Yanhuang appeared again, but because they went out a little late, they only saw the Yanhuang destroying the flagship of a space ghost and then escaping. In addition, there are about 20,000 space battleships coming outside now. They seem to belong to 2 space fleets, but now these 2 fleets have all been attracted by the Yanhuang. As for the previous fleet. Speaking of this, Xiao looked a little strange. The fleet that attacked us before seems to have only 12 space battleships left. The others should have been destroyed in the energy impact just now. They saw the wreckage of countless space battleships on the ground. And now, above us, there are only the 12 surviving space battleships from the original fleet. The others have gone to pursue the Yanhuang. Xiao finally wanted to suggest to Duan Lei whether he should go up and destroy the 12 space ghost warships, but after all, Xiao Yuer was not a human race, so he was familiar with it, and he never said anything about tactics. So after hesitating for a moment, he just looked at Duan Lei but did not speak. Duan Lei glanced at Xiao, shook his head slightly and said, Xiao, I know you want to say that we go out and kill the space battleships left above, but we can't go. Although it is very easy for us to kill these dozen space battleships, but, in this way it's easy to be exposed, which means all the madman's previous efforts have been wasted. The cosmic ghost is quite powerful. When it was in the outer universe, it once destroyed a galaxy of our human race. Therefore, the hatred between our human race and the cosmic ghost cannot be resolved at all. This level of the Endless Tower is different from the previous ones. No, only one of our races can stand in the end, and the one who loses will definitely be annihilated, and the entire race will disappear from this world. Xiao looked at Duan Lei and nodded lightly. Of course, he didn't know the hatred between the human race and the cosmic ghost, but after getting along with the human race, he found that the human race seemed to be a very peaceful race. Although he used this word, it's a bit funny to describe the opponent who killed half of his tribe, but that's what Xiao really thought. Because along the way, he discovered that the human race only completed the tasks on each floor of the Endless Tower and left immediately. They would not drive out any race. Their killing was just to enable them to continue on. It's the rules of the Endless Tower, and they can't break it? Moreover, Xiao's phantom race is a race with inherited memories. He also knows that if the human race kills the race that he defeated, they will benefit, but the human race has never done this. Even in the face of the human race is a race that can be defeated easily, and the human race still only kills 40%. Even the human race has not deliberately plundered the resources of those races to increase its own reserves. Although the resources of the human race seem to be sufficient at present, who would think that they have too much of this thing? Therefore, Xiao now has a pretty good impression of the human race, and he also guessed that there must be an undying relationship between the cosmic ghosts and the human race. He thinks this is the first time he has seen the human race trying to exterminate a whole race. Then let's. Xiao looked at Duanlei and asked in a low voice. He was asking about his own tribe. Xiao, give them a hard time and let them continue to stare at it. This time they may stare for a long time, so you can let your tribe members rotate. If there are no special circumstances, just report once every half a day. If other warships appear, or if those warships leave, come down and tell us immediately. Understood. Xiao nodded, turned around and walked towards his 3 tribesmen. After telling them Duanlei's words, he let the 3 of them leave. Now Xiao's special life form allows him to not only talk directly to humans, but also to communicate with his own people. He does not have to condense an illusory image to communicate with Wang Feng like before. Can do it? Duanlei came to Tang Haoshan at this time and handed him a list. This is the personnel distribution of the space battleship that I have reorganized. Old Tang, please read this out. There are only members of the command team. As for the soldiers, you have distributed them equally between the soldiers of the Expeditionary Force and the soldiers of the Second Army. First, prepare the team, and when the time is right, we will go out together. Remember, prepare enough energy for the space battleship. This time we go out, we may have to wait until the end of the war before we can return to the defensive fortress. It is impossible to come back for supplies in the middle, so we must prepare everything before departure. Xiaolei, do you really want to pilot a space battleship into battle? Tang Haoshan looked at the list and frowned. I think it's better for you to stay in the defensive fortress. After all, this is the base camp of our human race. There can't be any mistakes. Even if all of our space battleships outside are destroyed, it will be fine. But if the defensive fortress goes out, if this happens, our human race will be gone. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1124. It's okay. The defensive fortress will at least be much safer than the space battleship. After hearing Tang Haoshan's words, Duanlei shook his head slightly and said, now the madman has lured the space ghost fleet away. Although there are still more than a dozen space battleships on it, they probably just stayed to confirm whether our human race's defense fortress was destroyed in the previous energy impact. The power of this energy impact is beyond my imagination, so I don't know if any of the things we threw out before can be left behind, but this is irreversible now. Let's leave it to fate. The things Duanlei was talking about were naturally the scrap metals he had collected before. Before activating the light transmission, he threw all the scrap metals out of the defensive fortress. However, Duanlei didn't know whether the scrap metals could be used in the defense fortress. If there is such a huge energy impact left behind, there may not even be any dregs left. Fortunately, due to the small size of those scrap metals, they were blown away by the impact as soon as they were touched by the edge of the energy impact. Although a large part of them was completely reduced to ashes after being enveloped by the energy shock wave, but after all, there were still some left, and luckily they were found by the cosmic ghost. Although the number is not large, it is barely enough to prove that the human race's defensive fortress has been destroyed. At least that's what Bryce thought at the time. Of course, Bryce no longer needs to care about this, because he is now staying in the world. Perhaps it is not as big as the piece of debris he held in his hand. Right now, the Phantom Tribe is helping us watch what's going on above. Now it's up to us to see if those cosmic ghosts can find some of the wreckage we threw out. If they can, then maybe there won't be any more space battleships in a while. It's considered safe. Duanlei looked at Tang Haoshan and said. In that case, after they leave, we can first dig out a passage from the ground for small fighters to go out, and then send small fighters out to conduct reconnaissance. After confirming that there are no space ghosts around, we will use light teleportation to teleport the space battleship out. Start fighting guerrillas with them. Light teleportation? Then, where will we place the defensive fortress? Tang Haoshan was stunned. He originally thought that after the surrounding area was safe, Duanlei would directly teleport the defensive fortress away and find a location farther away from here to activate the invisibility system. Put it right here. Duanlei smiled. The most dangerous place is the safest place. If my guess is correct, after those space battleships leave, there will be another wave of space battleships after a while. After the second wave of space battleships leave, this place will be really safe. Oh. That's right. Speaking of this, Duanlei suddenly remembered something and quickly called Xiao over. Xiao. Go and tell your people that once they find a space battleship flying at low altitude in their direction, have them all retreat to the defensive fortress to avoid being discovered by their life detectors. Seeing Xiao follow the order and leave, Duanlei continued. They will definitely send some space battleships, centered on the previous energy explosion, flying at low altitude, using life detectors to find our existence. Fortunately, our defense fortress can now block our life signals, so when they search here after that, it will be safer here. Furthermore, the cosmic ghosts must not have thought that in fact, only the madmen and the others left, a small part of our human race. The vast majority of our human race still stay in the place where they were surrounded before. This is the so-called darkness under the lamp. Especially when we all go out, the attention of the cosmic ghost will be attracted to us all. Before we are all killed, the defensive fortress will be safe. If we are all wiped out, haha. Then we don't have to worry. Defensive fortress. Okay. I'll make arrangements right away. Seeing that Duanlei had made up his mind, Tang Haoshan had no choice but to nod. Then he came to the console and summoned all the core members through the communicator. Madman. A space fleet is coming from ahead. Lu Feng looked at the radar screen and reminded Wang Fengdao. Yeah. I saw it. Wang Feng nodded, then sneered. Damn, the formation is so scattered. It seems they want to surround us. Then let me give them a surprise. Just when the Yanhuang was pushing the two space battleships chasing them further and further away, another obstacle appeared in front of them. A fleet of space ghosts, distributed in a semicircle, appeared in front of them to intercept them. If this space fleet intercepted him in a cone or similar dense formation, Wang Feng might have to consider changing directions to break out. However, after seeing that this fleet actually intercepted him in a rather scattered fan shape, he directly faced the space battleship crashed into it. He knew that he must be the commander of this space fleet. He heard that he only had one space battleship. He thought that he must be escaping, so he adopted this formation. This is a typical encirclement and annihilation formation. Only his own side is in absolute control. It will only appear when there is an advantage. Of course, now, it is absolutely right for the fleet commander of this cosmic ghost to adopt this formation. With one human warship and their fleet of nearly 10,000 warships, isn't this an absolute advantage? However, now that Wang Feng has lured away all the cosmic ghosts, he has no worries anymore, so he doesn't mind having a big fight. Of course, the environment here is much better than when he was in the cosmic space with the cosmic ghosts. It's different when fighting. First of all, there is gravity here, which affects the speed of the space battleship. Another point is that there are still soldiers from the Hope expedition in the Yanhuang. Wang Feng does not dare to take them into Xianyuan space anymore. He can now. I feel that even after taking out the Yanhuang number, the Xianyuan space has been in an unstable state. Obviously, the previous inclusion of the Yanhuang number had a certain impact on my Xianyuan space. If it is taken in again, Wang Feng is almost 99% sure that Xianyuan space will definitely collapse, so now Wang Feng is definitely not as flexible as when he piloted the Yanhuang. At least, he can no longer use the tactic of driving the Yanhuang to the vicinity of the Space Ghost's battleship, then teleporting out, putting away the Yanhuang, and then teleporting into the Space Ghost's battleship, and once he is targeted, it is also impossible to immediately switch to small fighters to avoid it. But despite this, Wang Feng is still confident to fight against the Cosmic Ghost fleet in front of him, especially now that he doesn't know the situation on Duan Lei's side, so if he makes more noise here, it will be more difficult for Duan Lei's side. The more advantageous it is. Of course, Lu Feng would not object to Wang Feng's decision. He already knew that although Wang Feng often made some amazing moves during battles, it was often these seemingly suicidal moves that could reverse the situation. The battle situation, and every time Wang Feng survives the disaster, it can be regarded as a miracle. Anyway, either some other race rescued him inexplicably, or he killed the enemy by accident. Lu Feng even felt that if this was a humming novel, Wang Feng would definitely be the protagonist. But if this is the case, Lu Feng is secretly glad that he did not choose to be Wang Feng's enemy, because in novels, the protagonist's enemies usually die miserably. Alas! It's best if this is true, then, the Cosmic Ghost is dead. Lu Feng looked at the Cosmic Ghost in front of him and sneered. How dare such a thing that doesn't know life or death dare to fight against the protagonist? It depends on how you die. If it were me writing a novel, you would live for at most 2 chapters. What if it's true? Wang Feng asked while staring at the Space Ghost fleet ahead. He heard Lu Feng mumbling, but he didn't understand what he meant. There was a beginning but no tail. Lord, no. It's nothing. Just concentrate, the war will begin soon. Lu Feng almost slipped his tongue and said what he was thinking. Fortunately, he changed his words temporarily and successfully diverted Wang Feng's attention by targeting the approaching Cosmic Ghost. However, Lu Feng looked at Wang Feng's head. I went there, but I didn't find any protagonist halo. Although it is in an environment similar to that of a planet, the space battleship's acceleration is only affected when it starts. Once it is running, the speed of straight flight is not much slower than that in the universe. Therefore, the space battleship opposite appeared in Wang Feng's sight. Because of the assistance of the sky eye, Wang Feng did not always stare at the radar when driving the battleship. After all, the sky eye now also has the attribute of time, which can slow down the opponent's attack and automatically appear the opponent's attack trajectory. So it is much easier to use than radar. This is also the main reason why Wang Feng is confident in fighting the opposite space fleet. As long as Wang Feng keeps the Yanhuang's speed from slowing down, he will not be held back by the Space Ghost battleship group, and naturally there will be no danger of being caught in the fire. As long as he is not caught in the fire, he will have the energy he gives to the Yanhuang. The shield continuously delivers energy, and it is not unusually difficult to break through the Yanhuang's energy shield. And now Wang Feng has figured it out. Duan Lei is right. If he can't even deal with the Cosmic Ghost, it will be useless to keep too much energy reserve. Therefore, this time Wang Feng is going to make a small splurge and try his best to make more noise, contain more of the Space Ghost fleet, and buy Duan Lei and the others more time. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1125. After the Yanhuang, driven by Wang Feng, entered the range of the Space Ghost battleship, the opposite space fleet immediately poured out countless energy beams, which surged towards the Yanhuang. Wang Feng relied on his own sky eye to constantly adjust the trajectory of the Yanhuang. Under the cover of such dense energy beams, it was impossible for the Yanhuang to dodge all of them with such a huge size. Wang Feng could only find the route with the least energy beams. At this time, all the expeditionary soldiers were not on the small fighters, but in the assembly hall of the Yanhuang, watching the battle through the screen, ready to learn some experience from it. Because of this battle, Wang Feng did not plan to use small fighters. After all, the number of small fighters of the Space Ghost was at least 100 times more than that of the Yanhuang. Although all the soldiers on the Yanhuang are expeditionary soldiers, they can be said to be the elite among the elite, but the huge disadvantage in numbers is obviously not something that can be compensated by technology. Moreover, to be honest, the expeditionary soldiers have not experienced much in air warfare, and their combat effectiveness is far less than that on land. So now these expeditionary soldiers are just observing and learning, and they will not fight this time. In fact, even if they learn Wang Feng's tactics, they are unlikely to use them. After all, only Wang Feng has such a perverted ability as the Sky Eye. If they do not cooperate with the Sky Eye and use Wang Feng's tactics, it is not much different from sending themselves to death. Wang Feng has also reminded them of this, so now they are mainly just watching the reaction of the cosmic ghost. According to Wang Feng's previous experience of several collisions with the cosmic ghost's warships, the cosmic ghost race, whether it is air combat or ground combat, all have the same old tactics, without any changes. Therefore, if they are familiar with their routines, it will definitely be useful in future wars with them. At this time, the Yanhuang had been submerged by the energy beam, but due to Wang Feng's control, the number of times the Yanhuang's energy shield was hit was not many, so the consumption was not large, which was completely within Wang Feng's acceptable range. Moreover, although all the beam cannons of the Yanhuang had been fully charged and could be fired at any time, Wang Feng did not launch an attack, but just dodged blindly. This was because the current distance had just entered the attack range of the beam cannon. Although at this distance, Wang Feng could accurately carry out a concentrated fire attack on the Space Ghost warship with the assistance of the Sky Eye, but now was not the best time. Because this space fleet was surrounded in a very scattered fan-shaped encirclement, even if Wang Feng opened fire now, he could only destroy one Space Ghost warship. Wang Feng wanted to use its explosion to attack more Space Ghost warships while destroying a space battleship. And because the Space Ghost discovered that Wang Feng did not seem to have the intention to escape, the space fleet had begun to become compact, because this was more conducive to their concentrated fire attack on the Yanhuang. In fact, the commander of the space fleet did not pay too much attention to Wang Feng. He just knew that the human race's space battleships were better than their battleships in terms of flexibility and speed, but this was limited by talent, and the Space Ghosts had no way to do it. 10 fingers and 100,000 hairs, there is no comparison at all. So in terms of adjusting the direction, their battleships are definitely not as good as the human race's battleships. Fortunately, they are now in large numbers. No matter how flexible your human race's battleships are, I can't catch a mouse with 10,000 cats. So now in the eyes of the commander of the Space Ghost fleet, this human race who did not escape at the beginning but wanted to fight with them is simply an idiot, a mouse surrounded by cats, and it is definitely impossible to escape. Of course, after discovering the Yanhuang, because of the regulations of the headquarters, the commander of the space fleet reported what happened to him and the human race battleship to the upper level. So Karul and Dapra, who were chasing after Wang Feng, naturally knew about this situation. When they knew that his fleet was about to meet Wang Feng's Yanhuang, Karul and Dapra warned the fleet commander at the same time, because they both knew that Yanhuang had the ability to kill one of their flagships in one concentrated fire, even if the energy shield was turned on. So both Karul and Dapra persuaded the commander of the space fleet not to fight Yanhuang head-on, but to trap it. As long as they entangled the human warship for a while, they would be able to catch up. By then, the three space fleets would surround and kill together, and the human warship would be hard to escape. And Dapra and Karul also told him that there might be all the surviving humans on this space battleship, and as long as it was destroyed, the human race should be completely destroyed. Dapra and Karul certainly didn't know that the human race's defense fortress was not destroyed in the energy shock. They just took it for granted that the human race's defense fortress could not survive such a huge energy shock, so they didn't even go down to search for the wreckage of the fortress. Bus just wanted to make it safer for himself to enter the Elders' Council, so he asked the frigates to search for the human race's wreckage. But now he doesn't have to worry about this problem, because the dead cosmic ghost can't become an elder. But the last words of concern from Dapura and Karul made the space battleship commander here feel that something was wrong, because Dapura and Karul only asked him to surround the human battleship and did not let him destroy him with all your strength, but say you will wait for them to arrive before encircling him with all your strength. This gave the commander of the space fleet other ideas, because in his opinion, Dapura and Karul were obviously afraid that his fleet would destroy the human warship, and they would have no credit. What he thought made sense, because no one would think that a space fleet with nearly 10,000 space battleships and hundreds of millions of small fighters would be helpless against a space battleship. Although among the Space Ghost clan, there is a legend that a human space battleship crippled their entire space fleet, but those who have not seen it with their own eyes do not believe it. They all believed that this was definitely a rumor. It was the guys from the space fleet that were crippled by the human race. They exaggerated the combat power of the human race because they suffered a defeat. Those who have not personally tried their best can never imagine how terrifying Wang Feng with the Sky Eye is when controlling a battleship, especially when he is driving the Yanhuang. He can put the Yanhuang away at any time and replace it with a small fighter, or teleport directly to the enemy's warship and start killing directly. The tactics are completely unpredictable. However, this fleet commander should be able to enjoy Wang Feng's performance immediately. Although Wang Feng cannot exert his full strength because there are still original Ding Jun soldiers in the Yanhuang, Wang Feng has now made a plan your own tactics. Wang Feng didn't think about it and kept fighting with the Yanhuang. Although he had planned to make a small splurge, he definitely couldn't use up all the Yanhuang's energy reserves, because after he left, Lu Feng and the others still need to continue to fight on the Yanhuang. Lao Lu. You are right next to me, ready to take over the Yanhuang at any time. Once I suddenly disappear, you will immediately drive the Yanhuang away. As for how to fight in the future, you can figure it out yourself. Wang Feng said to Lu Feng beside him while avoiding the energy beams that almost formed a screen of light. Well, you should be careful yourself. Once you leave the Yanhuang, we will not take the initiative to contact you, so as not to expose your existence. Lu Feng nodded and said, because after Wang Feng left, he probably spent most of his time in his small invisible fighter plane, so they definitely couldn't contact him actively. Outside, Wang Feng was secretly approaching the headquarters of Cosmic Ghost. When, they sent a message to Wang Feng, which might expose Wang Feng. Instructor. You are right next to me. When I put you away later, remember to control your energy fluctuations. The Xianyuan space is very unstable now, and I am worried that something will go wrong. Wang Feng told instructor Li Yingning again that after his Xianyuan space put away the Yanhuang number, the space is still shaking a little and seems very unstable. Originally, Wang Feng didn't want to take the instructor and the others into Xianyuan space, so he let them just stay on the Yanhuang. Unfortunately, none of those people agreed. Not to mention the instructor Li Yingning, even Lu Wanting and Wang Feng didn't pass the test. And if Wang Feng's plan is to follow Wang Feng's plan, they must first make trouble in the space fleet to cover the Yanhuang's departure, and then they can find a way to leave here. Therefore, it is not possible to leave by stealth in a small fighter plane, and they have to do it again. They were taken into the Xianyuan space. However, these people led by Wang Feng are all top-notch combatants among the human race. No matter in terms of combat experience or strength, they are not comparable to others. They are even better at controlling the energy in the body. So Wang Feng dared to take the risk and make this decision. Don't worry. After hearing Wang Feng's words, both the instructors and even Qiu Jian, Xiao Wu and others nodded, saying that they knew that, in fact, they had suppressed the fluctuations of their life energy, basically following the same trend. There is not much difference in the energy fluctuations of a plant. Then come on. Wang Feng suddenly sneered, then activated the beam cannon and launched an attack on the target he had already chosen. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1126. Since the previous fleet commander had ordered everyone to concentrate and prepare to use as many warships as possible to fire with all their strength to consume the energy shield of the human warship and destroy the human warship before the two fleets behind arrived, so now the space fleet in front of Wang Feng, especially the space battleships facing the disembowelment area, have all gathered. This just makes it convenient for Wang Feng's attack. Although in Wang Feng's view, the distance between their warships is still a bit far, they can only make do because the distance is close enough now. If it is closer, Wang Feng's Yanhuang No will be affected by the shock wave generated when the opponent's warship explodes. Although it will not cause damage to the Yanhuang, it will definitely affect the Yanhuang's speed. This is absolutely fatal to the Yanhuang among the local battleships. All the beam cannons on the Yanhuang ship lit up at the same time, and then, a large number of light spots were shot out from the Yanhuang ship, directly towards a large battleship. None of the large battleships had any dodge. Even though they had seen it, it seemed that the impact area of this wave of attacks was very small. But one reason was that they were now among the battleships. If Wang Feng attacked, he would definitely attack the universe. The place where ghost battleships are most densely concentrated. So it has no room to dodge at all, and another reason is that their fleet commander has issued a death order to block the route of this human warship. No warship is allowed to retreat. Anyone who disobeys the order will be among the warships. Other cosmic ghosts can directly kill the captain who gave the order to retreat and kill him instead. Because of the existence of this order, no space battleship dared to make the slightest move to retreat at this time. They did not even dare to issue the order to retreat. Who knows whether these guys around them would because of this. Kill him on his own order, and then he becomes the captain? Not to mention that the Yanhuang is only attacking with beam cannons now. Even if Wang Feng directly drives the Yanhuang and rams him into it, trying to perish together with the space battleship can only hold on. Therefore, this space battleship only adjusted the energy output of its energy shield to the maximum. Even its beam cannon had stopped shooting. All the energy was used to prop up the shield. In the view of the space ghost, these light spots don't seem to have much power, and my own shield should be able to support them. However, when the attack launched by the Yanhuang came into contact with the energy shield of the space battleship, the space ghost immediately understood the power of the human race's beam cannon, and also knew that those seemingly inconspicuous light spots were actually compressed. The energy contained is quite terrifying. Boom! A violent explosion sounded, and then a fireball appeared in mid-air, which looked very spectacular. The energy shield of the space battleship, although it was already at its maximum energy output, was still like paper under the attack of light points from the Yanhuang. It did not even hold up for a second before it shattered directly, and then, this large space battleship, which was only a circle smaller than the flagship space battleship, exploded, and the wreckage of the battleship flew everywhere, causing many space battleships around it to suffer unreasonable disasters. What? The commander of this fleet had been watching here. When he saw this situation, he was shocked. Of course he could see that the destroyed large space battleship had used all the energy of the entire ship. I came to support my energy shield, but I didn't expect it to still be like a balloon, bursting when touched. It seems that the power of the human race's beam cannon is more powerful than theirs, and this human race warship's control of the beam cannon is quite perfect, and the landing point is too concentrated. Even based on the power of their naval gun, such a concentrated landing point, I guess their energy shield won't be able to hold on. However, the fleet commander did not pay attention to the destroyed warship. It was just a space warship. Even if it was a large one, he could afford to lose it. As long as he could kill this human warship, even if he lost 180, a space battleship is not a problem. Quick! Right now, the two wings move toward the center to surround the human battleship. Don't be afraid of accidental damage. Fire with all your strength to consume his energy shield. The fleet commander ordered in the command system. Under his order, the space battleships with fan-shaped wings began to surround the Yanhuang from behind, preparing to surround the Yanhuang. We are not in space now, so it is relatively easy to surround a space battleship. Unlike in space, we have to surround it from all directions. However, Wang Feng's next move directly shattered the fleet commander's wishful thinking of surrounding him. After the space battleship was destroyed by Wang Feng did not change his direction, but continued to rush towards the space battleship that was destroyed. Then, Wang Feng used a beam cannon to shoot the battleship flying towards him. The wreckage was shattered, passing through the energy turbulence generated by the explosion of the space battleship, and rushed towards the outside. Boom! The Yanhuang came out of the space turbulence and happened to see a space ghost battleship. At that moment, without any politeness, the fully charged naval gun focused fire again, turning the space ghost battleship into a ball of fire. Because the whole ship had just gone through a full ship shooting, the guns that were now fully charged were all small guns. The most powerful main guns and secondary guns were still being charged and not fired. However, because the space battleship that appeared in front of the Yanhuang had no idea that it would become the next target of the Yanhuang, its energy shield was just in a normal state. Moreover, the Yanhuang suddenly emerged from the flames and smoke, and the space battleship was caught off guard and had no room to dodge. It just turned into wreckage and scattered everywhere. After destroying two space battleships in succession, Wang Feng did not stop at all, and continued to advance toward the periphery along his route. The space battleships along the way naturally became his attack targets. However, Wang Feng did not fire randomly. Every time he attacked, he would definitely focus on fire, that is, if he fired, he would kill one, otherwise he would simply not fire. Because the Yanhuang is now surrounded by the warships of the Space Ghost, even if he hits a space battleship seriously, he will never have the opportunity to go back and make up for it. In that case, it is equivalent to wasting energy in vain. As long as the injured battleship is towed back, it can be repaired quickly. So now Wang Feng is fighting with the fleet of the Space Ghost with the attitude of it is better to break one finger than to hurt 10 fingers. A bunch of idiots. What are you doing? Fire! The continuous loss of two space battleships made the fleet commander furious. He didn't feel sorry for the two space battleships, but felt that he had so many battleships, besieging a battleship, and now he didn't even touch a hair of the other party, and he had already lost two space battleships. Isn't this too embarrassing? However, two consecutive space battleships were directly killed by this human space battleship, which also made the fleet commander understand that what Karul and Dapper said before, that Bust's flagship was still destroyed by the space battleship even with the energy shield turned on, was indeed not an exaggeration of his strength. The human race does have the ability to kill their own battleships in one shot. However, there is no way. The fleet commander saw all the attacks of the Yanhuang just now, so he also knew that the human battleships were able to directly penetrate the shield and kill their own battleships in seconds, not entirely relying on powerful firepower, but on the precise control of the naval guns. On a space battleship, all the large and small naval guns added up to tens of thousands, and when so many naval guns are fired, not only the landing point of the energy beam must be controlled, but even the time of hitting must be calculated. The positions of the beam cannons are different, not all on the same horizontal line. You should know that the length of a large space battleship is measured in kilometers. Therefore, if you want the beam cannons at the front and rear of the battleship to hit the target at the same time, it is impossible to fire them together, but they need to be fired in a sequence. If there are only two beam cannons, it may be easy to say. After calculating the distance and angle, you can immediately calculate how long the front cannon needs to be delayed to hit the target at the same time as the rear cannon. But, the beam cannons that destroyed their space battleships are not one or two, but thousands, and the firing time of almost every one will have some slight differences. How did the human race do it? How many people are controlling these beam cannons? Now the commander of the fleet has basically determined that there must be the most elite warriors of the human race on this human space battleship, and they have been cooperating for an unknown period of time to achieve such precise calculations and tacit cooperation. Of course he didn't know, he only guessed half right. The Yanhuang did have the most elite warriors of the human race, but the beam cannon was not controlled by them, and the warriors now were just spectators. The human race warship that destroyed his two space battleships in a row was actually driven by only one human. Don't retreat. Fire at full force. If it flies towards you, just knock it down. Seeing that the Ran race warship seemed to want to break through, the warship commander shouted at the top of his lungs. Don't let him escape. Keep him. At all costs. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzu. Chapter 1127. Of course, this fleet commander must capture this human warship at all costs, because if he is run away by this human warship now, he will be in trouble, because he did not listen to Dopula and Karul's advice. First, instead of trapping the Yanhuang, he planned to destroy him and hit his own fleet, which gave the Yanhuang a chance to break out. Now the facts have proved that Karul and Dopula's suggestions were correct, but it is too late to change the formation now, so the fleet commander simply went all out and won the space battleship no matter what the cost. The changes in their formation cannot escape the eyes of Dopula and Karul. The radar on their battleship can clearly see their fleet. Once escaped by this human battleship, the two of them will definitely use this matter to accusing himself, blaming the escape of the human warship on himself. Because now their three space fleets have been in contact with this human space battleship, so if they do not kill this human battleship in the end, their three fleets will be questioned. In this case, Dopura and Ka of course rule would add insult to injury and push himself out as the scapegoat. At that time, I will definitely not be able to keep my position as fleet commander. In the face of my own future and the lives of my men, do you need to think about which one is more important? After receiving the order, those space battleships on the periphery had no choice but to move closer to the Yanhuang, which was preparing to break out, because if they did not carry out the order, their fate might be worse than death. At least if they died in battle, they would not harm your own family. But at this time, Wang Feng had already piloted the Yanhuang and approached the periphery. The movements of these space battleships did not pose a great threat to him. After all, they did not want to trap him from the beginning. The huge space battleships changed formations during the battle. It's not that easy. What's more, those battleships of the Space Ghost have seen the strength of the Yanhuang and know that it can kill them directly, so now they are moving slowly towards the Yanhuang. Although they can't escape, at least they can charge slower. Everyone knows that at this time, those who rush to the front will definitely be beaten as the first bird. Lao Lu. Prepare to take over. After I leave, you can rush out with the shield. Remember not to be surrounded. Wang Feng spotted the two Space Ghost battleships and told Lu Feng that he had found the opportunity to leave the Yanhuang. Don't worry. Lu Feng nodded and said. I may not be as good at piloting a space battleship as you are, but in this situation, if they want to surround me, it's just a dream. So we will definitely be fine, just be careful. Well, these guys can't kill me yet. Wang Feng smiled softly, then suddenly picked up the Yanhuang and rushed towards a space battleship above him. Seeing Wang Feng's actions, the captain of the space battleship he targeted secretly complained in his heart, why did so many space battleships take a fancy to him? Is he already very far behind? But now that the human warship has arrived, the captain has no choice but to grit his teeth and give the order directly. The energy shield maximizes its output, all beam cannons stop firing, the warship accelerates, and collides with the human warship. The captain of this space battleship is very smart. He knows that the beam cannon on his battleship will definitely not be able to knock off the Yanhuang's energy shield before the Yanhuang destroys his own battleship, so he simply stops firing and shoots all the beam cannons. All the energy is provided to the energy shield, and his warship accelerates directly to hit the Yanhuang. In this way, his fleet commander should know that he was following his orders and ramming the enemy ship with the idea of perishing together. Now the captain only hopes that the captain of the human warship will not be too stubborn. I really died with myself. Although if two battleships really crash together, even if he has made a great contribution, his family will also be honored, but no matter what, it has nothing to do with him. Maybe his wife will just take the headquarters. After being given a large reward, he went directly to find another cosmic ghost and stayed and flew with him. Everyone wants to achieve meritorious service, but at least it can't cost their own lives. If their lives are gone, it's useless to give him a huge credit, right? To the captain's relief, Wang Feng did not intend to collide with him, because he had seen that although the human warship was flying in his direction, its route had been changed and it was not intended to collide with him. Since the human warship didn't want to collide, he certainly didn't have to fight so hard, so he commanded the channel again and ordered. Attention everyone, the direction of the human warship has deviated. Our warship also needs to adjust. Slowly adjust the course. It is best to keep in line with the trajectory of the human warship. Try to crash it. Die together with him. The order given by this guy was very skillful. First, he pointed out that the human warship had changed its direction, so his own warship had to slowly adjust. To keep in line with the human warships, so as to die together with them. Not even the fleet commander or even the senior headquarters could find anything wrong with this order, but at least the cosmic ghosts controlling the direction could understand it, especially in the end when he especially emphasized the words die together. As long as the cosmic ghost controlling the direction is not stupid and doesn't want to die, there will definitely be a slight delay when adjusting the orbit, resulting in the final passing of the human warship. In this way, they have expressed themselves heroic without actually sacrificing. It can be said to be the best choice now. However, this captain definitely didn't know that Wang Feng was actually the one who designed it. Wang Feng knew a lot about the cosmic ghosts. He knew that maybe the lowest level cosmic ghosts, such as those who piloted small fighter planes, they are all really not afraid of death, but the captains of space battleships are not necessarily afraid of death. The higher the status of a person, the more he will cherish his life, because his life is superior and he has too much. Once he dies, he will naturally lose more. Unlike the cosmic ghosts at the bottom, they originally you have nothing, you just die, you just have to fight, who is afraid of whom? This is commonly known as the one who is barefoot is not afraid of the one who wears shoes, or to put it in a more elegant way, the son of a rich man cannot sit down in the hall. Just like now, there are countless small fighter planes, frantically rushing towards the Yanhuang, firing while ramming directly towards the Yanhuang, although even if they really pass through the energy shield and directly hit the Yanhuang, they will not. It would cause too much trauma to the Yanhuang, but it would also affect the Yanhuang's speed. Not to mention if any small fighter plane in the outer Yi was lucky enough to directly hit their power system, the Yanhuang would probably be destroyed here. Therefore, Wang Feng has been using the small beam cannons on the Yanhuang to destroy all the small fighters that were about to hit him. Only 4 or 5 of them directly hit the Yanhuang because it was too late. However, the locations where they were hit were not important locations on the Yanhuang, and the armor there was very thick, so it did not have any impact on the Yanhuang, especially since Wang Feng had been prepared for their impact in advance, so even the speed of the Yanhuang Hao was not affected. The Yanhuang continued to fly diagonally upward, but the space battleship that was preparing to hit the Yanhuang had a slight deviation from the Yanhuang's course due to an error in judgment, and narrowly missed the Yanhuang. Pass. At the moment when the two battleships crossed each other, all the beam cannons on the Yanhuang were activated. However, the target of the Yanhuang was not the space battleship closest to him, but a little away from them. Another space battleship in the distance. Because this space battleship came from another direction, and because it was at the 10 o'clock position of the Yanhuang, the shooting position was quite ideal, so Wang Feng regarded it as his target. And the captain of this space battleship was gloating just now, saying that it was lucky that our ship was not selected, so he escaped a disaster. They are also surrounding the Yanhuang. However, this battleship originally thought that it was just a soy sauce and there was no danger, so it was desperately firing its beam cannon at the Yanhuang, trying to show off in front of the fleet commander. Give yourself a break. When the Yanhuang passed by the space battleship, the captain of the space battleship felt regretful, because in this way, their war would continue, and they were all afraid of the terrifying human battleships. I saw it with my own eyes. No one wants to fight such an enemy. Although Wang Feng slaughtered all the people of their original star, compared with his own life, hatred is obviously not that important. Who knew that at the moment when the human warship passed by our own warship, all the beam cannons on the human warship suddenly lit up together, and then, countless light spots flew out from the warship. Volley. All the surrounding space ghosts were shocked when they saw this scene. This was not the first time they had seen this situation, and every time this happened, one of their space battleships would be destroyed. Especially the captain of the space battleship targeted by Wang Feng. When he suddenly discovered that the target of those light spots was actually him, he couldn't help but shout immediately. Put up the shield with all your strength. There was despair in the captain's voice, because he also knew that his energy shield should not be enough to save him from the hands of death. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1128. The development of the facts did not go against the captain's wishes. At the moment when the Yanhuang's attack arrived, his space battleship burst open like a watermelon shot by a rifle, and the fragments were scattered. The surrounding space battleships all fled one after another, or used beam cannons to destroy its wreckage. After destroying the Space Ghost battleship, the Yanhuang sailed directly through its wreckage and continued to break out. Due to the explosion of the space battleship, even the space battleship behind it dodged to the side, so it was just right. Make way for the Yanhuang number. What are you doing? Who told you to dodge? Hit it directly. I told you. Let you do it at all costs. If any warship dares to make evasive actions, Captain, get out and use it as food. The commander of the space fleet shouted hysterically in the communicator. In fact, according to the etiquette of the space ghosts, no matter what the circumstances, the commander of this fleet should maintain the gentlemanly demeanor of their space ghosts and should not shout like this. But now the fleet commander no longer has the energy to worry about this, because the Yanhuang is about to break out of their encirclement. Although their number of space battleships is close to 10,000, because of the formation they adopted before and what the Yanhuang is doing now, the breakthrough caused most of the space battleships to be behind the Yanhuang. And due to the rat-throwing weapon, the space battleships chasing behind the Yanhuang did not dare to attack with all their strength, because there was a high possibility that they would hit their own battleships. Currently, there are only 5 space battleships in front of the Yanhuang, which means they can effectively intercept the Yanhuang. As for the other space battleships, although they are considered to be on the periphery of the Yanhuang, due to the angle, they cannot intercept the Yanhuang. The Yanhuang Hao poses an effective threat. After the fleet commander issued the order, the 5 space battleships that could intercept the Yanhuang did not dare to continue playing soy sauce. They all used full power and rammed towards the Yanhuang. However, for the sake of their own lives, all the energy was concentrated on the energy shield, and none of the naval guns launched an attack on the Yanhuang. At this time, the Yanhuang had already changed its pilot. Now Wang Feng was no longer among the Yanhuang. When he passed by the Space Ghost battleship just now, he finally controlled the Yanhuang's cannon. After launching a volley at the target he selected, he teleported to the Space Ghost battleship that was closest to him just now. At this time, Wang Feng, of course, would not be polite at all, and directly wielded the butcher knife in the battleship. However, the captain of the space battleship, who originally thought that he had escaped, realized at this time that the Yanhuang had the reason why they didn't shoot at him was because the humans wanted to control their own battleships. However, it was too late for them to know Wang Feng's intention now. The space ghosts in the battleship control room were completely wiped out within 2 minutes after Wang Feng teleported into their space battleship. Although there are a large number of space ghosts in this space battleship, they all obey the leadership of their captain after all. However, what they don't know now is that their captain has become Wang Feng's sword downstream. Soul. After cleaning up the control room of the space battleship, Wang Feng did not want to control their entire battleship. At least Wang Feng knew in his heart that it was impossible for him to simulate the voice of the battleship captain of the Space Ghost, so he didn't give any orders to the communicator, he just drove the space battleship directly towards his predetermined target. Wang Feng's own goal is very simple, that is, the 5 space battleships that can pose a threat to the Yanhuang. Although he is also reassured by Lu Feng, the Space Ghost is his enemy after all. No matter what, as long as he can cause the greatest damage to them, the harm you do is your own success. Just when those 5 space battleships, because of the fleet commander's order, desperately rammed into the Yanhuang, the space battleship controlled by Wang Feng also arrived at their battle area. Because this space battleship originally wanted to hit Wang Feng's Yanhuang, but because of the deviation in its position, it missed the Yanhuang. Therefore, after Wang Feng obtained this space battleship, the space battleship turned around and was able to fly in the direction of the Yanhuang. Boom boom boom. With a series of violent sounds, Wang Feng suddenly appeared in front of him. Wang Feng, who caught the Space Ghost battleship off guard, directly drove the Space Ghost battleship and crashed into the space battleship at the front. Because he did not expect that Wang Feng would suddenly appear in front of him, and it was his own battleship, so the battleship that Wang Feng hit had no time to react, and had a fight with the space battleship driven by Wang Feng. Intimate contact. There is no doubt that the 2 space battleships perished together, but Wang Feng had of course left the space battleship at this time. With teleportation, as long as he did not want to die, he would not be affected by such a collision at all. Any harm. As long as he calculated the collision time of the 2 battleships in detail, considered the angle, and then left smoothly just before the 2 battleships collided, then the Cosmic Ghost could be considered a loss-making deal this time. After the first space battleship was crashed, the space battleships that followed it immediately forgot the tactics they had arranged before. Because the distance was too close, they were also hit by the collision of the 2 space battleships. Influence. Not to mention the distance, at least the debris flying around is enough to scare other space battleships. He had obviously given his all and wanted to risk his life to hit the human warship, but why did a warship of his own suddenly appear to collide with him? If he collided with a human warship, even though he would die, he would still be considered a martyr, right? What the hell are you going to do now if you let me collide with my own battleship? And taking advantage of Wang Feng's trouble this time and other warships taking cover, the Yanhuang also escaped from the siege of the Cosmic Ghost and flew rapidly towards the distance. Chase me. The commander of this space fleet almost fainted. He never thought that this human warship could escape smoothly. He just thought that he might have to pay some price to win this. A human warship, but now, not even a hair on the human battleship was missing, but he himself suffered a loss of soldiers and generals. Especially the last one, when two space battleships under his command collided. How do you ask him to submit this combat report to the Council of Elders? It is estimated that after handing it in, he was also jerked off. So now the fleet commander can be said to be quite depressed, and there is no way out. If he cannot keep this human warship, his position will be over. But the most important problem is that the Yanhuang has now escaped from his encirclement. He is very clear about the speed of the human warship. If they can catch up with the human warship, Dopula and the others will not be stuck in the Yanhuang all the time. The back is full of dirt. However, what the commander of the space fleet never expected was that his trouble was not just the Yanhuang's escape, because at this time, Wang Feng was still in the area of his fleet. Pursue at full speed and must destroy this human warship. As soon as the fleet commander shouted these words, his eyes almost popped out of his head, because he immediately saw that the two space battleships at the front of the human battleship that his fleet was chasing suddenly collided with each other inexplicably. Exploded directly in the air, even the space battleships next to them were seriously damaged. Damn it! Are you an idiot on the 21st? I asked you to chase the human warship, but who on earth asked you to go sideways? Are you a crab? The fleet commander cursed angrily, but a space ghost beside him immediately reminded him. Lord Commander. Just now, it seems that the battleship on the left was deliberately rammed into it. Fart. Hearing this, the fleet commander became even more angry. Is he a pig? Pretending to be pretending? What are you thinking in your head? Sir Commander. That space battleship seems to be controlled by the human race. The cosmic ghost who spoke before said cautiously, then suddenly his eyes lit up and he pointed forward. Look. That's our battleship. The fleet commander looked directly in the direction pointed by this cosmic ghost, and then his eyes widened. Two space battleships collided together again. Of course, there is no chance that these two space battleships could survive. But this time, maybe the captains of other space battleships were smarter and scurried away when they saw something was wrong. Therefore, only these two battleships were destroyed this time, and it did not affect others. Who can tell me? What's going on? The fleet commander was furious. Then he suddenly thought of Dopura and Karul, and immediately connected their communicators. Dopura, Karul, can any of you explain to me why that human battleship seems to be able to command my space battleship? I have lost more than a dozen space battleships, and they all collide with each other. And what kind of monster did you bring to me? Are you sure he is a human? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1129. Humph. Brewster, are you questioning me? Dapper's cold voice came from the communicator. He expressed his dissatisfaction with Brewster's previous words. Why do you say that we brought this human race? Do you know that with just one word from you, I can sue you to the Council of Elders and remove you from your position as fleet commander? Hearing Dopura's words, the fleet commander Brewster who spoke before was stunned for a moment, and then broke out in a cold sweat. Dopura was right. If he was really serious about this, he would really be sitting in his seat. Can't stand it anymore. Fortunately, at this time, Karul came out to smooth things over. Okay Dapura. Now is not the time to talk about this, Brewster. We have seen the battle video between the human race and Burris before. The human race seems to use a kind of space power to directly enter our space battleship. What you said before should be the function of this ability. Our energy shield can't block this kind of human ability at all, but fortunately not all of them seem to have this kind of ability, so as soon as you find that your warship is controlled, immediately focus your fire to kill that warship. If we can kill that human race together, that would be the best. Even if we can't, we can at least avoid losing more battleships due to collision. In addition, you must remember that you must not let the human warship escape. No matter what the cost, the human warship is much faster than our Zhangjian. Once he escapes, it will be difficult for us to catch up. We are coming to your side soon, you just need to hold the human warship for a while. Carul's words made Brewster want to cry. He turned his head and looked at the human warship that was about to fly out of their encirclement. He didn't dare to answer at all, because he knew that with the force in front of the human warship, those few space battleships were unable to prevent the human battleships from escaping. Now Brewster really regrets it. He originally thought that the human warship colliding with his space fleet was a great achievement for him. Unexpectedly, because of his one thought, not only with the loss of troops and generals, not even this human space battleship can be left behind. Now it seems that he doesn't have to think about getting promoted. He doesn't even dare to hope to keep his position as fleet commander. He just wants to be able to avoid being executed after returning, which is already the best outcome. After Wang Feng saw that the Yanhuang had successfully escaped from the encirclement and was flying into the distance, he also stopped attacking. In fact, his previous attacks were quite risky. If anything went wrong, he might die directly with the space battleship he drives. Especially after he killed all the space ghosts in the control room. When he controlled the space battleship, he could basically only use the battleship's navigation skills, naval guns, etc., and he could not mobilize them, because the space ghosts' battleships were the difference with the human race is that not one console can operate all the functions of the space battleship. In contrast, the battleship's central control room of the Cosmic Ghost is more like a command center that issues orders, while the cosmic ghosts elsewhere carry out their tasks according to the orders issued by the central control room. So every time after Wang Feng captured the space ghost's battleship, he would directly control it to crash into other space battleships, because he only had this way. Even if he wanted to fire, he had to use teleport to control other space battleships. This not only wastes his energy, but also prevents Wang Feng from using the Cosmic Ghost's naval gun to fire a salvo like the Yanhuang. For a Cosmic Ghost battleship protected by an energy shield, if it cannot launch a precise salvo, then firing more energy beam attacks will only consume the opponent's energy and will not have much effect. But when it comes to energy, Wang Feng has gained a lot this time, because every space battleship invaded by Wang Feng will absorb most of its energy reserves. Perhaps in order to have a decisive battle with the human race, and to initiate this decisive battle when the human race has just arrived at this level, the Cosmic Ghost is very well prepared, at least in terms of the energy reserves of the space battleship. They have made a big deal. According to Wang Feng's estimation, if the energy reserve of each space ghost battleship is the same as that of the space battleships he captured before, then the space ghost battleships can carry out operations for more than a year without any supplies. Fighting. The battle mentioned here refers to the kind of fierce battle, basically the kind with full firepower, so the energy consumed every moment is huge. It can be seen that the race of Cosmic Ghost has plundered many people outside. Who knows how many races there are that can store such a huge amount of energy. Wang Feng now fully understands Duan Lei's meaning. He is right. If Wang Feng can enter the lair of the space ghost, then he really doesn't have to worry about the lack of energy. Even the space battleship is so huge. Energy reserves, let alone the headquarters of Cosmic Ghost. So Wang Feng's top priority now is how to enter the headquarters of Cosmic Ghost. After the Yanhuang escaped successfully, Wang Feng teleported directly to a space ghost battleship. However, this time Wang Feng did not directly start killing, and the position he teleported in was not the same as before. Appeared directly in the central control room of the space battleship. This time, Wang Feng appeared in a very remote location, and after entering the space battleship, Wang Feng hid directly. Now he doesn't need to kill, and what he needs to do most is to think about how to enter the headquarters of the Space Ghost. Regarding the location of the Space Ghost headquarters, Wang Feng doesn't have to worry, because after controlling the Space Ghost battleship, the location of their headquarters is exposed under Wang Feng's eyes. Because all the Space Ghost battleships have star maps, especially now that they are in the Endless Tower, as a local snake, the Space Ghost had already drawn a very detailed map for this level of the Endless Tower 10 years before Wang Feng and his team arrived at this level. After Wang Feng controlled the battleship of the Cosmic Ghost, of course he would not let go of this star map, or map. Now he is not in outer space and cannot see the stars, so it may be more appropriate to call it a map. Now Wang Feng is worried about how to enter the lair of the Cosmic Ghost, because after he consulted the information in the battleship of the Cosmic Ghost, he found that the Cosmic Ghost had already built a huge steel fortress in this layer of the Endless Tower. Although he has not seen it with his own eyes, Wang Feng knows that the steel fortress of the Cosmic Ghost is definitely much stronger than the human defense fortress, although the Cosmic Ghost's fortress certainly does not have light transmission and space technology. But in terms of firepower and defense, this steel fortress of the Cosmic Ghost is definitely much stronger than the human defense fortress, and even the word crushing should not be an exaggeration. Moreover, when the Cosmic Ghost built the steel fortress, it first summoned all its clansmen and listened to many opinions before really starting to build it. Therefore, even inside the steel fortress, there are countless beam cannons on guard, which can directly submerge the invaders in their energy beams at any time. Now the Cosmic Ghosts should have discovered their abilities, so although these space battleships will return to their headquarters, the inspection will certainly be very strict, so Wang Feng understands that the space battleship he is on now should not be enough to bring him into their headquarters. And if Wang Feng leaves the space fleet and drives a small fighter plane to go there in stealth, there is a certain chance of success, but the stealth function of the small fighter plane has also been exposed, so in this regard, the Cosmic Ghosts will definitely strengthen their precautions. In particular, although the small fighter plane can be invisible, it will definitely produce energy fluctuations when it flies, and there is no way to completely eliminate it even if it flies slowly. In this case, the Cosmic Ghosts may discover their small fighter planes, especially Wang Feng is sure that these abilities of his should have been reported to their headquarters by the Cosmic Ghosts, so even if Wang Feng is heading directly to the headquarters of the Cosmic Ghosts now, he has already lost the opportunity. Wang Feng is now hiding in the Space Ghost warship, just thinking about how he should go to the headquarters of the Space Ghost, but no matter what method he uses, it seems that he can't be 100% able to enter the Space Ghost's lair without being discovered. After thinking of several methods but immediately being rejected by himself, Wang Feng decided not to think about this problem for the time being, and take one step at a time. Maybe when he reaches the vicinity of the Space Ghost's lair, the opportunity will come to him. So Wang Feng hid directly in this space battleship. Anyway, the space battleship is big enough, and he hides in it alone, and there is no need to worry about being discovered by the Space Ghost, at least for now. At this time, the Yanhuang has successfully escaped from the encirclement and left quickly in the distance. Although Brewster knows that his speed is impossible to catch up with the Yanhuang, he has no other way now. He can only let his fleet chase in the direction of the Yanhuang's departure, hoping to be lucky and meet another fleet of his own. In this way, no matter whether that fleet can stop the Yanhuang, he seems to be able to find a reason to excuse himself. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 1130. After Lu Feng flew out of the encirclement in the Yanhuang, he flew directly to the distance at the fastest speed. As for the direction, it was just the opposite direction of the human defense fortress. Wang Feng hid in one of the space battleships of the Brewster fleet without any action. Brewster now knew that the human race that appeared before should still be in his fleet, but he had already issued an order to let all the space battleships under his command to have a video link with his flagship, and did not find any abnormal situation in any space battleship. In fact, if he really wanted to find Wang Feng, Brewster still had a way. The Space Ghost warships all had life detection systems, and their life detection systems could distinguish whether a life form belonged to their people. So if he wanted to find Wang Feng, as long as Brewster let all the space battleships directly turn on the life detection system, he would know that Wang Feng was in that space battleship. But the most important thing for him now is not to find Wang Feng, because Brewster has just confirmed through the video link that the human race has not seized their space battleship again. This is a good thing for Brewster, because he is now chasing the Yanhuang. If the human race continues to jump out and make trouble, causing them to lose the Yanhuang, then he will be in big trouble. So now Brewster is very entangled. After hesitating for a long time, he finally decided to ignore the human race first. Although he should be hiding in the battleship under his command, he seems very quiet now, so he will pretend not to know. Chase the Yanhuang first. If you are lucky, you will encounter a fleet of your side in front of the human battleship. Then you can throw this hot potato to the fleet like Dapra and Karul before. At that time, it will not be too late for them to stop and deal with the human race. Anyway, the fact that this human race is hiding in their fleet is unknown to other cosmic ghosts. Even if Dapra and Karul will speculate afterwards, they can't find evidence. In short, let's take it one step at a time. However, although Brewster decided not to deal with Wang Feng for the time being, he still turned on the life detection system on his flagship. After confirming that there were no foreign creatures in the flagship, Brewster was completely relieved. He didn't want to let the human race go for the time being, and let him touch his flagship and destroy his warship. After turning on the life detection system on his flagship and setting it to alarm immediately once other races were found, Brewster focused his attention on the Yanhuang. At this time, the Yanhuang was already some distance away from his fleet. After all, the speed of the human warship was much faster than that of the Space Ghost. If it continued like this, it was estimated that in a few hours, the Yanhuang would completely leave Brewster's fleet behind. I don't know whether it was to balance the combat power between the technological race and the power race or what. In the Endless Tower, the radar system was greatly weakened. Originally, the space detection radar on the space battleship could directly detect warships tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of kilometers away, but in the Endless Tower, this distance was infinitely shortened. When detecting its own warships, the radar can still detect tens of thousands of kilometers, but when it comes to detecting enemy warships, it can barely detect warships thousands of kilometers away. Thousands of kilometers, for a behemoth like a space battleship, is not much different from face-to-face, so the radar is basically useless. However, this situation is definitely a good thing for the human race. Otherwise, they can't escape the pursuit of the space ghosts. For the space ghosts whose warships are far more than 10,000 times theirs, if they go head-on, the human race will probably be annihilated. Lu Fen naturally knew the situation, so he didn't pay any attention to the space fleet behind him. He just flew forward and stared at the radar screen. The shipborne radar of the Yanhuang was modified by the goblins and the Bree, so its performance is much better than that of the Space Ghost. Although it has also been weakened, it can still detect nearly 10,000 kilometers, which is about the same distance that the Space Ghost radar can detect its own warships. Although 10,000 kilometers is basically a matter of seconds for a space battleship, at least Lu Feng can change his direction in advance to avoid being surrounded by the Space Ghost fleet. When Wang Feng was driving before, he deliberately rushed into Brewster's fleet, so this was also considered Brewster's bad luck. After more than 2 hours of flying, the Yanhuang finally flew out of Brewster's radar monitoring range, which means that Brewster had lost the Yanhuang. On the way, they did encounter a Space Ghost fleet, and that space fleet was able to intercept the Yanhuang, but when Brewster discovered his own fleet, the Yanhuang also discovered the space fleet in front, so it changed direction directly, so that Brewster didn't throw the blame. Finally, after Brewster joined the oncoming fleet, he stopped chasing, because they didn't know where the Yanhuang had gone, and they couldn't catch up. After Brewster stopped, the fleets of Dapra and Karul also came to the place where they met. At this time, they naturally knew that the human warship had escaped. Humph. Brewster. I have reported the details of this incident to the Elders' Council. Let me see how you explain it to the Elders' Council. As soon as Dapra arrived, he poured cold water on Brewster's head in the communicator. Originally, he wanted to say that there was still a human hidden in his fleet after the 4 fleets gathered, and wanted the other 3 fleets to surround his fleet and catch the turtle in the jar. After hearing Dapra's words, Brewster couldn't help but swallow back what he wanted to say. Brewster thought very clearly. Even if he let the other 3 fleets surround his fleet now, and then check one warship after another, the human race would definitely not be able to escape. Even if he could teleport, the distance should not be exaggerated, right? Only Dapra and his fleet need to be far away from his fleet, and then all his fleets will turn on the life detection system. The warships that do not find other life forms will fly out of the encirclement directly, and the remaining ones are naturally the warships where the human race hides. When the 3 fleets fire at the same time, even if the human race has great ability, they will definitely not be able to escape. However, such a credit is obviously not enough to make up for his previous mistakes. It is possible that he can save his life, but the position of commander is definitely out of the question. Therefore, Brewster decided to keep the human race. Maybe there will be a turnaround later. Even Brewster is looking forward to the human race. Now he can teleport to other fleets, and then just like before, directly snatch a space battleship and hit other battleships. In this way, he has an excuse to get rid of his guilt. It would be best if Wang Feng could reach Pula's fleet and destroy a few of his battleships. He can say that the human race has been hiding in his fleet for a long time and has passed information to the human battleship, so that he failed to destroy the human battleship. However, it is obvious that Wang Feng did not intend to cooperate with Brewster. At least now that so many space battleships are gathered here, Wang Feng cannot take action. If he takes action, at most he will destroy a few space battleships. If the Space Ghost is ruthless enough, he can even directly focus on himself and the battleships he hijacked, which will not be worth the loss. Moreover, Wang Feng's current target is not the space battleship, but the nest of the Space Ghost. He really wants to know, now that the Yanhuang has been lost, these space battleships will continue to disperse to chase, or directly return to the nest. Dapura. Karul. What should we do next? Continue to search for the human race separately? The commander of the last space fleet asked in the communicator. He had connected with Brewster before and learned some information. Originally, he also wanted to intercept the human battleship, but according to the direction indicated by Brewster, he did not see the human battleship until he joined Brewster's fleet. He originally received an order from the headquarters to come here to join up and prepare to fight with the human race, but now the human race has disappeared, so he doesn't know what to do next. Brewster didn't look very reliable, so the fleet commander asked Dapura and Kalu who arrived last. Kalu was average. Although his fleet was very strong, he didn't usually stand out. But Dapura was quite famous among the Space Ghosts. Dapura was the commander of the first fleet of the Space Ghosts. He was well known among the top leaders of the Space Ghosts. Therefore, the fleet commander thought that what Dapura said should be very reliable. Wait a minute. The headquarters is studying it now, and there will be an order soon. When talking to the fleet commander, Dapura's tone was somewhat relaxed. Damn Bryce, he was only concerned with keeping us in suspense, and as a result, his video was destroyed along with his warship. Otherwise, if he had directly sent the video back to the headquarters, he would have saved a lot of trouble. Now we can't describe the strength of the human warships by just relying on our language reports, and I'm afraid the headquarters can't judge it well. Dopura. You and Brewster return to the headquarters, and Carol and Bitly will meet up and continue to search for traces of the human race. Before Dapper finished speaking, a voice came from the communicator. Dapper was stunned, and then immediately replied. Understood. We will return immediately.